Hello scrappers, welcome back to my channel. Mike here. Now not long ago in an earlier video I did an unboxing of some stuff from my buddy Ken up in British Columbia, Canada. He sent me a whole box full of projects that are going to keep me busy for a while. And I've already got a good start on them, let me tell you. One of the things I'm really interested in is this stuff here. This is the big bag of grindings that came from Mount Baker Mining and Metals. You're probably familiar with Jason over there at Mount Baker Mining and Metals. If you watch my channel, you probably watch his too. So what Ken did was he sent a whole bunch of PC motherboards to Jason, and Jason ground them up through his hammer mills and ran them across his shaker table. And what we've got here is a big bag of the number ones or high-grade concentrates that came off of Jason's shaker table after running all those motherboards through his system. So this is basically all the metal from the motherboards. I'll give you a close-up look at this stuff. Alright, so let me give you a look at some of the stuff we're dealing with here from Mount Baker Mining and Metals. Basically, like I said, it's all the metal from the motherboards. Let me see if I can zoom in anymore for you. Yeah, get a little more light on the subject maybe. So yeah, there's lots of balls of what appear to be copper that's been beat up in the hammer mills, tin that's been beat up. There's lots of pins, which I assume are going to be either bronze or spring steel. They're gold plated, by the way. There's a lot of gold plated pins in here. I don't know if it's showing up on the video, but I could see them shining under the lights. But there's going to be zinc, there's going to be aluminum. You know, there's stuff like this, which I think is galvanized steel. So, yeah, there's a lot of base metals here. I want to get rid of most of these base metals and get down to just the copper and whatever precious metals are in here. So I'm trying to oxidize away these base metals with pyrometallurgy, and we'll see how it goes. So far it's been encouraging, but I haven't done that many tests, okay? We'll see if I actually get there in the end. Okay, let me see if I can get us a closer up look at this stuff. Now I know what a lot of you are probably thinking, because I've been thinking it too. Just use a magnet to pull the steel out, alright? Well, here's a magnet. Got a couple problems with that idea. First off, some of these pins in here that are gold plated, they're magnetic. They're probably spring steel, maybe from like RJ45 connectors or something. So I want to capture that gold. I don't want to throw it away. And another problem is Jason's hammer mill did a really good job of pounding the softer, more malleable metals into balls and trapping some of the steel inside those balls. So I'm not just picking up steel, I'm picking up some of those balls of what look like copper or tin too, because they've got steel pounded up inside them. So yeah, just pulling the magnetic part out, that's not really an option, because we're going to pull some gold out, we're going to pull some other stuff out. So I need to figure out a way to treat this stuff that's going to deal with it as a whole. Okay? Got to deal with it as a whole, not just bits and pieces of it. So my goal here with this stuff, I was talking to Ken about it. He wondered if I could find the value in it. Basically, I know there's gold in here. I can see some gold-plated pins through the plastic. There's going to be gold, there's going to be silver. It's mostly copper. I've got a feeling, mostly copper. But there's going to be some steel, there's going to be zinc, there's going to be tin, going to be a lot of tin from the solder on the boards. You know, iron, there's a lot of stuff in here, okay, besides the copper, the gold, the silver. My goal with what I'm trying to figure out how to do here is to get rid of as much of the other base metals as I can and just keep the copper, silver, gold, any platinum group metals that might be in this stuff. So I've been doing some experimenting off camera, and I'll show you the results. Actually, I'm going to just show you some of it on camera now because I'm still experimenting. In fact, I've got the the foundry furnace going in the background. You may be able to hear a dull roar of it. I'll give you a look at that too as we're going here. So I'm experimenting with basically oxidizing away everything except the copper, gold, silver, and platinum group metals. And the way I'm doing that is I am adding 200 grams of this stuff to a crucible, putting in 200 grams of borax, and then varying amounts of sodium nitrate. I'm using sodium nitrate because I have plenty of it on hand. Potassium nitrate would work. Various other oxidizers I'm sure would work too. And I've been having some success. I'm not there yet, but I am having some success. So we'll take a look at what I'm doing and what kind of success I'm having so far. And like I said, I've been roasting this stuff in a crucible with 200 grams of 200 grams of this stuff in a crucible with 200 grams of borax and increasing amounts of sodium nitrate. I started out with 50 grams, and this last one I increased it to 120 grams, and this next one I've got in the furnace right now, we're going to do a full 200 grams of sodium nitrate and see what we get. Yeah, so if I can get rid of most of the base metal and wind up with a prill in my cone mold that's mostly just copper with the precious metals dissolved in it, I can take those prills and I can remelt them into anodes for an electrolytic refining cell and run the copper through the cell. I'll get really pure copper out of it, which I really don't have a need for really pure copper, but the anode slimes left behind will be all the precious metals from this stuff. And there should be a fair amount of precious metals in here. It's just a matter of getting it. That's the hard part. So that's what I'm working on. So that's my goal. I'll show you what I've done so far while we're waiting on the furnace over there. So here's what leads me to think I'm on the right track here with this method. Here is the prill from the first batch I did, which was 200 grams of this stuff, 200 grams of borax, and 50 grams of sodium nitrate, okay? And this thing weighs 168 grams. So we lost 32 grams of metal, okay? Here's the second one I did. So this was, again, 200 grams of the grindings, 200 grams of borax, but in this case it was 130 grams of sodium nitrate. I was aiming for 120, but I went over a little bit and said, well, what the heck, we'll throw it in. And look what we got. We got 138 grams. So here we've lost 62 grams of material. Now, interestingly, I ground the tip off on both of these and one corner to have a look at the color of the metal. Let's see, there's the one I ground off. Now, both of them were very silvery yesterday after I poured these, but overnight they've tarnished to sort of a bronze color, both of them. But what I'm hoping is, as I increase the amount of nitrate, hopefully we'll burn away enough of the base metal that these will start looking like copper right out of the cone mold. That's what I'm hoping. That we'll get rid of enough of this base metal. I'm sure there's still some tin, some zinc, maybe some other stuff in here alloyed with the copper, which is keeping them from looking copper colored. I'd like to get the amount of those base metals down to where these things are actually coming out of the cone mold looking like copper. So that's where I'm going with this. We'll see how this third one goes. We'll do this one on camera. So here's my third load in the furnace, just starting to melt down. Every once in a while there's a bright flare in there as something burns off with the sodium nitrate. But right now it's pretty calm. But hopefully that sodium nitrate is oxidizing lots of base metals in there. So this one has 150 grams of sodium nitrate in it, and the usual 200 grams of motherboard grindings and borax. Now I was reaching the limit of my crucible, so I want to put more sodium nitrate in this mix, So I've reserved 50 grams that I can dump in once this is all molten, and I can just stir it in with my stirring rod. So we'll see how this does. This will have a full 200 grams of sodium nitrate in it when it's done. I don't know how well that's showing up, but the reaction's starting to take off in there. Okay, the charge is fully molten. There's a lot of bubbling going on, which tells me there's some serious reaction going on in there right now between the sodium nitrate and the base metals. There's a little bit of white smoke, which probably isn't showing up all that well coming out of the furnace. You get over here, maybe you can see it. I suspect, it's hard to see, but I suspect that white smoke is zinc that's boiling off. So I'm going to let that react a little while longer, and then I'll stir in the 50 grams of sodium nitrate I held in reserve. Yeah, I don't know if those bright orange hot spots are showing up in there, but I suspect, ooh, it's hot in there. I suspect that is where some of the base metals are reacting with the molten sodium nitrate in the flux there and producing a lot of extra heat as they oxidize away. That's what I think's going on. I see these hot spots. They appear and disappear over time. A lot of bubbling going on. That tells me there's still a reaction happening. Oh, I got to back off. It's hot. Wait a few more minutes before I put in the rest of the sodium nitrate, because what's in there is still working apparently. Alright, I think we're ready. Got my stir stick in there preheated so everything doesn't freeze out on it. Let's see if I can get this extra 50 grams of sodium nitrate in there without making a mess of it here. Whoa. Little bit of a boil over there. Stir it up some here. Oh yeah, that was pretty violent. I have to be careful about that in the future. Just let that react till everything calms down, and then we'll pour it in the cone mold. See what we get. So I've got everything ready to go. I'll start preheating the cone mold in a bit, but I'm going to let the white smoke that's kind of boiling off there, I'm going to let that, see if we can let that dissipate a little bit, because I think we're getting rid of zinc, which is a good thing. We don't want the zinc in there. So I'll just let that cook for a little while longer and see if the smoke dissipates. So it's interesting, I'm sitting here watching it. I'm upwind, by the way. And if this was any worse, I'd be wearing my respirator. But the bubbles are coming up, and they're popping. And when they pop, there's a little puff of yellow flame. I think what we've got there, and I'm going to stand back because the wind's shifting. I think what we've got there is zinc vapor that's coming out of the solution. And as soon as the bubbles of vapor hit the atmosphere, they burst into flame and oxidize. And then we got the little bit of white smoke of zinc vapor, zinc oxide vapor coming out of the furnace. There's really not much white smoke now. It seems to have dissipated a lot. There was more earlier. I think we're getting close to being done in there, but I'm going to let it go a little while longer. So I'm kind of changing two variables with this melt, which is not smart in an experiment. This is going to get more sodium nitrate than the other two, and it's going to be in there longer. And we'll see if we cook off more of the base metals that way. So I'm just going to let this go a little while longer. I mean, the others, at the most, I left them in there for like 5 or 10 minutes after everything was fully molten and the reaction looked like it had slowed down, but we still got a lot of bubbling going on, so I'm going to let this go. Yeah, I've repositioned the camera a little bit, so hopefully you'll be able to see the pour better when it happens. I think we're about ready. So I'm going to preheat the cone mold. And it was good timing, because I think my tank of propane is just about empty. So I think we got enough propane in there to get this cone mold preheated good. Get this stuff poured. and see what our result is. I switched to my backup propane tank really quickly because the pressure in the one I was feeding this with was dropping way too quick. I didn't want the melt to cool off too much before I get a chance to pour it. Okay. So I do believe we are ready to pour. Pretty good in there. Uh-oh. My plinth came out with it. Not a big deal. Got it all. That skid on the surface, I think, is graphite for the crucible. Lose a little bit of graphite with each run, but this is actually surprisingly easy on the crucibles. Interesting convection patterns in there. I hope they're showing up. This would be better at night, but it's the middle of the day. Fortunately, it's a little cloudy, so maybe you can see something. See the convection cells in there. The glow's fading. Okay, we're going to let that cool, and we'll see what comes out of it. We get this furnace shut down. So here's a little bit of the theory behind what I'm trying to do. Here we got the classic reactivity series of metals. So basically, I want to keep the copper, the silver, the gold, any platinum group metals, okay? So they're way down here. They're way down here at the low end of the reactivity series. Now, mixed in with this stuff, we got some aluminum, we got some zinc, we got some iron, probably some nickel, lots of tin, probably some lead. I doubt there's much antimony or bismuth, but I could be wrong. But we need to get rid of all this other stuff, and we want to keep this stuff here. So what I'm trying to do is just oxidize away these other metals by adding a lot of oxidizer to the melt and getting them to burn off. Now, I have noticed in the last two pours I've done that the iron was pretty much unaffected by this, but it tended to stay in the crucible. And this time I didn't see any iron in the bottom of the crucible, so it may have either went into the melt or it may have been oxidized away. I don't know, because I don't think we're getting hot enough to melt the iron actually. Possible it's alloyed with the copper. I hope not. But and then we see the zinc boiling off a little bit. Hopefully the aluminum is all oxidized. Nickel's all oxidized. I think the tin and the lead are not oxidizing quite as well, which is why these, but well, before they tarnished, were quite silvery looking. Now they're kind of brassy looking, but they were quite silvery before they tarnished, because I think there's probably a lot of tin and lead in them. So we'll see how this last one I did comes out once it's cool enough to touch. Once it's cool enough to touch, I'll dump it out, and we'll see A, what the color is and what the weight is, and see if our prill is even smaller, which I'm hoping. Alright, this stuff isn't molten anymore, but it is still wicked hot, so I've got to sit in front of my big fan to cool off. So I'm just going to let that sit there for a while because it's way too hot to deal with yet. So once it cools down enough that I can touch it barehanded, we'll dump it out and see what we got. Okay, this is cooled off enough. Turn the fan off so you can hear me. Let's see if we can dump this out. Look at that. Well, there's our little blob of metal. I don't know if it looks much copperier. Let's take it over and look at it under better light. It's very gloomy today. Okay, I don't know how well this is showing up. It's very gloomy out here. Even under with the artificial lights of my lab here, it's very hard to show up. This is definitely less silvery than these were when they first came out. Yesterday, these were bright silver colored. They, like I say, they tarnished overnight and start looking brassy. But this is coming out looking a little more brassy. This is looking a little more like copper. So let's see what the weight on this is. It doesn't really look smaller than the last one. So I don't know. That's 138. It's about 142. So it's about exactly the same weight as the second one I did. Maybe even a couple of grams heavier. But it definitely looks more coppery. That's very interesting. Huh. Strange result, but it does seem to be heading in the right direction. It's definitely got some copper color to it here. In places, yeah, for sure. In places, it's definitely looking coppery. So, I think we're headed in the right direction. This is definitely the most coppery one that I've done so far out of the three, even though it's not really any lighter than the second one. You know what? Let me grind off the corners on this and see what it looks like underneath the crust. Okay, that's probably not going to show up very well. I ground off the very top of the pyramid and one corner over here, and I'll tell you what, they do look less silvery than either of these two did before they tarnished. These looked like very bright silvery when I did that. This has a bit of a brassy color to it. So possibly, you know, I did use more sodium nitrate with this, and I left it in there for longer. So possibly that could be it. I'm not sure where the iron went. I have a hard time believing the iron got totally oxidized away. It might be alloyed with the copper in here. I don't know. And of course, you know, yeah, that's heavy. Every 200 gram scoop of this stuff's a little bit different too, so the composition's not 100% the same in each one. So I don't know. Maybe this 200 gram scoop had maybe a little less iron in it, possibly. So that's it. But I think we're definitely going in the right direction. We've this is starting to look like copper. So let me think about where to go from here. I think I've made a little bit of progress, but certainly we're not ready to start pouring anodes yet for the electrolytic cell out of this stuff. And of course, here's another possibility. Rather than looking at new ways to treat this, maybe, now that I have these, I should be looking at ways to treat these. Maybe I could put these back in the crucible with some borax and some sodium nitrate and give them another pyrometallurgy round and see what that does. Maybe it will get rid of some more of the base metals in these things and leave behind just, you know, some more of the copper. So that's a possibility. So I've got a couple of different ways I can go forward. You know, I can continue working with this stuff and seeing if I can oxidize away more of the base metals. I can work with different oxidizers too. I've been using sodium nitrate up till now. I can get some other oxidizing agents and try them and see if they work any better. And then I could start working with these. I can remelt these, put them in a crucible with some oxidizer, and see if I can burn away some more of the base metals in these, and then get a cone, get a little pyramid that's closer to pure copper with the, of course, the precious metal impurities in it, which is what I'm really looking for. So let me think about that. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you have some suggestions, some ideas, some constructive criticism about what I'm doing, let me know. If you have experience in this area, let me know. I find my audience is very intelligent and has a lot of good ideas. So send me some feedback. Leave a comment down at the bottom of the video. And in the next video, we'll try some other stuff. See if we can find some value in Ken's ground up motherboards from Mount Baker Mining and Metals. I think we're getting closer. So subscribe to see those future videos when they come out. Press the little bell icon YouTube wants you to press to be notified when those new videos come out. As a subscriber, you'll be notified when I release another video if you press that bell icon. And check out my second channel, Electric Geek 64. It's always good stuff going on over there. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Bye.